Alright, this is an example of how to SSH into the aCloud Guru Linux Instant Terminal to complete Linux labs in aCloud Guru for classes such as LPI Linux Essentials, and this lab is the first lab in LPI Linux Essentials. You can see that your lab will have a particular duration. This one is supposed to last for 1 hour. There's a timer saying there's about 40 minutes left, and these credentials will be active during that time period. There's a username, a password, a public IP address, which is what we'll be connecting to, and then a private IP address of the server. And there's two ways to launch the Instant Terminal. One is by clicking this blue Instant Terminal button, and that will, if you mouse over it, in some browsers you'll be able to see that leads to ssh.instantterminal.acloud.guru. And there's also a Launch Instant Terminal button beneath the credentials, which also points, if you mouse over. Some browsers will show that that points to ssh.instantterminal.acloud.guru. So I'm going to click on this blue Instant Terminal button to launch the Linux Instant Terminal. So the $sign is my prompt. This rectangle is the cursor. And if I return to my lab with the credentials, I can see that my username is Cloud User. In the LPI Linux Essentials class, it's almost always Cloud User. And if I click on this, then my username will be copied. I'm okay with typing cloud_user, so I'm going to skip copying that. I will want to copy the public IP address that we'll be connecting to by pressing that. Before I do that, I'm going to copy the password by pressing on the copy. I can see that's been copied to the clipboard. So I'll go back, and a Unix command you can execute is echo, and then I'm using a Windows machine. I'm going to paste that password by using Control, Shift, and V at the same time. Now I can see that I was successful in pasting that password. So I'll hit Enter, and I can see that the Linux echo command will return what I typed. So to connect, we'll need to say we're a particular user connecting to a particular public IP address. So cloud_user is going to be the username I'm going to use to connect, and the destination the machine I'm going to connect to has this public IP address. It's difficult for me to type IP addresses without making an error, so I'll click that to copy that IP address to the clipboard. Then I'll go back to the Linux terminal, and I'll type SSH for secure shell, because I'm going to make a secure shell connection to that machine, as cloud_user is my username for this lab, so I'm this user and then I'm going to do Control Shift V again to paste in that public IP address. That public IP address is 3.228.12.252. We can see that here as well, 3.228.12.252. Alright, so I'm going to hit Enter, and the response from the system is, do you want to continue connecting? I'm going to type Y for yes and hit Enter. And then now the prompt is asking for cloud_user at 3.228.12.252. That's the public IP address. What is that user on that system's password? So I'm going to go back to the lab, because this password is a little hard for me to type without making a typo. So I'm going to mouse over this paste button, and I can see that I've now copied that password to the clipboard. I'm going to go back to my Linux terminal. I'm going to do Control Shift V. You don't see any response because that would be a security risk. If my password were shown in plain clear text and someone were standing over my shoulder, they would be able to see that password. So even though I have pasted it, you can't see, there's no indication in the terminal, and that's for security reasons. You don't see the password in clear plain text. You don't see how many characters there were in the password. But if I hit enter, then I can see that this result indicates that cloud_user is now logged in to the private IP address of server 1, which is 10.0.1.10. Oops, let's go to right. So I'm now logged in as cloud user on this machine IP, which has the name 10. This uses hyphens for the machine name. This is machine a cloud guru name 10 hyphen IP hyphen 10 hyphen 0 hyphen 1 hyphen 10. And if I want to run my first Linux command, just to show I can run a Linux command in the server, I can type who am I, and that'll tell me who I'm logged in as. And I'm logged in as cloud user. If I wanted to repeat, if I wanted to exit out of this machine, out of this server, I could type exit. Now I'm back at that $ prompt that we started from, and if I hit the up arrow key on my laptop, I can bring back the last command I ran before I connected to the server, which was SSH space cloud_user at the public IP address. If I hit enter again, and then I paste in the password again with Control-Shift-V, then I can log back in again. And what was my password? It's still in my buffer, so now that I'm not actually trying to paste in my password, I can do Control-Shift-V and see what that password was. Right, which you would not do on a normal machine, but just to show that that is what was entered at that password prompt. All right, and from there, you can continue on with your lab. I hope this was helpful. Thank you.